Hi, it's Greg Hurrell back again to continue talking about Neovim, and this time demoing what I've been playing with over the last few days. So I dabbled with this a little bit, got my plugins working, and then got to the point where it's good enough that I feel I can actually switch to it to make this a real trial. So I've gone as far as aliasing Vim to Neovim. So I'm going to do that. Let's open Vim, which is actually Neovim, as you can see. And now let's open the real Vim, just so we can compare. They look the same, don't they? It's kind of amazing. So let's open some file like our vimrc, just to see a couple of differences here. You'll notice the Command T plugin works just fine in both. Other plugins that work, let's use Ferret to search. Sorry, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do rather than actually doing what I want to do. So Ferret works, as I said. The visual differences, you'll notice that the highlighting and the quick fix listing is different. That is because Neovim has an additional feature, which is that you can supply a separate highlight group for that quick fix line. So it's quick fix line. Whereas in normal Vim, it's just going to use search, which I happen to have configured like this. But I actually do want search and the quick fix listing to be different because I use a plugin called Loop to make it easy to see the current match. So I want really two styles. I want the search style to be visible but subtle enough that I'm never going to confuse it with the currently selected match. And so just to show you what that looks like over here, what file am I even in? Let's go and look at the same file. You'll see here that this looks the same as it does over in Vim, but I also get these very visible quick fix listing highlighting, which I like. So let's go back to where we were. We were looking at if I recall correctly, we're looking at the vimrc, and we'll also have a look over here. You'll notice the syntax highlighting is a little different. Neovim tends to use bold a little more because it's basically assuming true color support, GUI level support, as long as the term info database suggests that it's a capability that it can use, it just goes all in on it. So things here tend to look more like they would in MacVim. Oops, I keep forgetting that these are actually two separate editor instances. So we have here the two versions. I've shown you that Command T works, Ferret works, Loop works in both, Terminus works in both. That's the plugin I use to detect focus gained and lost events and make sure that the buffers remain up to date. It has to do much less work on Neovim because Neovim just has better terminal integration out of the box. But let's get to the motivating reason to use Neovim in the first place, which was to try out deoplete. So I'm going to open a new buffer and I'm going to set the file type to mail, so that I can use address autocompletion. And as usual, I'm going to have to block some of this out because I don't want the address book to leak out to the internet, but I'll show you that completion works. So I can type my name with a space, which is a nice touch. I can do the same over here. Oops, let's get a new buffer, set the file type to mail, and autocomplete. This is more limited. It's possible that I might be able to make this work, but I never bothered to figure out how to do it. I can't search with spaces, and I can't search with dots either, because you completely interprets that as like the beginning of a new search. Whereas in deoplete, I was able to pretty trivially configure that to be the way I wanted. So I'm actually going to get rid of this now. Go back here. The ordering is much more intuitive in this one because I was able to plug in the ranking algorithm from Command T, which works really well with fuzzy matches. It tends to put the thing that you're actually looking for at the top as opposed to the thing that was like alphabetically first in the list. So let me show you the code for that, if I can remember where it is. I am going to put some of this in a repo of its own because it relates more to Command T than it does to my dot files or to Neovim even. But for now, it's all in my dot files repo. So if we go to Command T score, you'll see that basically I just took one file from Command T, happens to be called match.c in Command T, and brought it over here and wrapped it in a Python extension. Now, I'm not a Python developer, so this is probably Clown Central, but nevertheless, this is what I have. So I'll show you what score looks like. Basically, I took the corresponding file from Command T, realized that there's almost no Ruby specific stuff in there, and it's mostly just vanilla C. So I was able to bring that over pretty straightforwardly and dump it in this file. And there's only a little bit of stuff down the bottom necessary to expose the internal function to a Python function. And so you can get this with, I think it's something like pip3 install command t.score, and suddenly you have a way to score fuzzy matches, which I can even demo if I can remember how to do it, showing my Python skills here. So if I import command t score, I can do something like command t score calc. It'll calc the score of finding the string foo in foo bar. Give me a number between, that is not even, it takes 3 arguments. The last one's a bool about case sensitivity. So just an example, if I change the order here, you see that foo at the beginning of the string scored higher than foo at the end of the string, and similarly, foo after a slash scores higher than foo not after a slash, and a few other things. So that's available to anyone who wants to use this scoring functionality in a Python project, which I think is pretty cool. But I'm using it in my completion thing, so let's have a look at what that looks like, just to give you a sense. Basically, these things are super easy to create. You just extend the base class. You can configure a few things. This is the kind of semi-interesting part where I plug in my smart sorter, which is the command T thing that you just saw. I'm not sure where that is defined. Sorter something. That's the one I'm looking for. So basically this thing does almost nothing at all. It just imports the score thing that you just saw me use in the REPL and does something that's kind of like Vim's smart case algorithm to decide whether or not it should use a case sensitive search, and then just calls command T score calc. Now the real command T is designed to work on huge repos with over 1 million files in it. So it does all this crazy stuff around memoization and parallelization that this scoring algorithm doesn't need to do, because generally when you're talking about completions, even if you're completing an address book, you're probably only talking hundreds or thousands of candidates, and C is fast, and calling C from Python is fast enough that you can just call it without any memoization, and completion is going to be fast, and ranking is going to be fast. So basically plug in that smart sorter, and most of this is, the heart of it at least, is this gather candidates, which has the job of returning a list of possible completions. It does that if this regex is satisfied. So basically on any of these header lines, BCC, from, to, etc., after a comma or a space, then we're going to try to do a completion. And the contents are going to come from this down here, which is basically shelling out to the lbdbq executable. That is a database of possible email addresses. So that's how easy it is to set up one of these things. The other one, which I use for completing links on my website, same deal. We plug in, we turn on fuzzy matching, which is built in. We turn on our smart ranking of fuzzy matches. We talk to Redis. That's where I keep the index. Same deal. We just get the candidates with some probably clowny Python, which is probably not idiomatic, and I wouldn't know because I don't write Python. The basic job is to return a list of possible completions. That works too. And I was kind of delighted at how easy all this was to put together. So that brings me to the end of my tour of Neovim. There's probably a lot more that I could say about it and will likely discover over the coming days, but I'm going to keep using this for a while and just see how it goes. But in the meantime, thanks for taking the time to watch the screencast, and tune in again soon because I'll have more to say.